It's honestly, this is the first time my staff and I have been able to train them in any semblance of normalcy since we've been here. So we're just excited to be able to do it kind of like what we're used to doing for once. When we got here, last at the end of February, the training progressions and the exercises and the way you would teach guys to grow from exercise A to exercise Z, we didn't have that time to progress. So we started that in June, and then it was divided because of COVID and how we had to do pods and whatnot. So where we would be now, had we been training this way since last a year from now, the progressions aren't quite there yet because we're starting now. And so it's probably not as advanced a training as what we'll do a year from now, because as the guys adapt to it and get more comfortable, it gets more challenging. The biggest thing in the weight room for us is we want to chase weights and train hard, but we have to challenge their athleticism in the weight room, or it doesn't it doesn't show up on the field for them. So we got to challenge them as athletes, and how that comes, it becomes more complex with what you ask them to do in here.
I understand that the 8-week program split into 2 phases. The first one was just the strength staff. The second, where the assistant coaches and the coaching staff get involved. I guess, can you kind of describe the differences between those two and what changes?
Yes, sir. So the first 4 weeks of it was just with the strength and conditioning staff. We went 4 days a week, and basically it was the preparatory phase of, one, knocking the rust off of the guys from being away for, say, the holiday break. And so easing them into getting used to the type of training that we're going to get into, which is this next 4-week phase. And then the coaches get involved. We do the stations around the field like everybody does and things like that. There's also some more football specific activity that comes in this next phase here, where they can actually do football without a ball, but it's very much more position specific. And then that will kind of bleed into the start of spring football. So you kind of just start with build that base. If you thought about a pyramid, we're just building the base, and then we work our way towards it. And then when spring ball hits, then we're kind of working at the tip of the pyramid there. And then we'll take a little time off and then start the whole process back over in the summer. So the big 2 distinctions are the amount of specific football activities. The first 4 weeks, there's none. It's just general fitness, strength, and conditioning. And then it gets a little more specific as we go. Where we started now is we can have larger groups, and we can spread it out and make it more position specific. So like our groups, defensive skills and middle guys is a group, our linemen is a group, and then our offensive skills and middle guys are a group. So it can be tailored to those 3 groups, that the workout's the same intent, but there might be some smaller differences based on who's in the room at the time. Whereas back, last in August or in September, we weren't able to do that. It was a little more one size fits all just because of protocols.
Thanks, Jason.
Yes, sir.
Our next question is from Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Jason, I guess, kind of in hindsight, where was this program from a strength and conditioning standpoint when you took it over? Do you feel like the players were where you thought they would be or should be for a Power 5 school, and where do you think they are at this point?
I do. It's funny. When I got here, I arrived the last day of their winter conditioning, of their phase 2, what we're in right now. I arrived the last day. So they were kind of at the peak of off season at that point. Then they took a week off for spring break, and that's when we were going to get rolling with spring ball. And then everything got shut down. So, when we got here, they were strong. They had been training for 8 weeks, and they were ready to roll. And then it became, just kind of learning the nuances and the different ways that we train, and maybe some of the different exercises or whatnot. But they were ready to go. There was no doubt about that. And I got to watch their last workout before they went away for break, and watching the stations and everything. And, to your point now, at this time of year, basically what we're doing and what we're chasing now is teaching them the intent that we're supposed to lift with in here. And football is a sudden sport. It happens now. And so that's what we're trying to develop in the weight room now is, when you decide to drive the bar or pick something up or power clean or snatch or jump, it has to be sudden, and the intent behind it has to be explosive. And so that's been the focus of this past about 5.5 weeks, of the intent that we're lifting with and that we're training with, and on the field when we run as well. Just a little more sudden, you're never going to have enough. We're always going to chase that. 10 years from now, I'll still be telling you that.
what's been one of the biggest transition issues you see universally with players who are leaving being standout high school players, but coming to the collegiate level, particularly in the Big Ten and at Michigan State?
Man, that's an awesome question. So this is what I tell all of the incoming freshmen and during recruiting and things like that. The greatest thing you can do for yourself to give you a chance to play is be in shape when you get here. Because the weight room's the easy part, because we're all going to bench and we're going to squat and we're going to lift and all the mirror muscles, right? But the thing that gets neglected is the conditioning side. And the way I tell them it is this: I'm like, look, when you get here, if coach is willing to give you 5 plays to show what you're about, and at 3, you're tapping out because you're tired, those 2 plays don't go away. They go to somebody else. So you got to be able to take the reps that they're willing to give you when you get here, because the weight room's going to take care of itself. You're going to mature. You're going to get bigger and stronger just by naturally maturing and aging. But you got to be in shape when you get here to take those reps they're willing to give you, because everybody wants to play early, and you got to be ready to go when your number's called. Every rep you're willing to give, I'm ready to take. And because they don't go away. There's no such thing as a lost opportunity or a missed opportunity. It just goes to somebody else. So why wouldn't you be ready to take it? So that's always been my admonition to guys is, man, come in shape, because we're going to treat you like you've not been in a weight room anyway when you get here, to make sure that things are done safely, technically sound, and that you're good to go on our end in the room. But the conditioning part, you got complete control over that when you show up.
So Jim Comparoni with Spartan Magazine.
Hey, Jason, I've got a question about the elite form system.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that, football's a sudden sport and you want to challenge them as athletes in quickness and reaction time. Could you expand a little bit on why elite form assists with that, and how many other programs are using it? How did IMG find out about it?
Yes.
How widespread is it and how important is it?
Yes, sir. Elite form is becoming much more widespread. When I was with the Titans, they were just getting started, and we had a unit down there, and we were able to demonstrate it and use it with our players down there. Obviously, when I got to IMG, the entire weight room was outfitted with it. And so, the basis of it is this. It trains the intent with which you lift, right? So we can all eyeball a guy squat or power clean or something like that. And 2 reps back to back can look the exact same to us, but there could be significant differences in the peak speed or the average speed or the power output of those 2 reps. And so with us, our guys in this sport, everything they learn about their sport is how they watch themselves on film. Everything is visual, but in the weight room, the only thing visual is a mirror. And so this is instant feedback for them to say, holy smokes, both reps felt the same, but one was significantly different. So it's feedback to show them starting strength, the suddenness, and the intent with which you lift. Now, with that becomes the competition component. So if I am training 5 racks down from somebody else, and one of my teammates, if he hits a number that's the best in the room, everything's going to light up gold, and his name's now on every screen of, hey, this is the guy to chase in the room. He's the top dog, right? And so now everybody knows, man, there's somebody we're chasing because the record was just set, and that's the peak of the day. And so it creates competition in the room, and it takes something that otherwise you don't keep score on, other than adding, pounds on the bar. And now we can keep score and create competition. But it's feedback for the guys of showing them, hey, look, this is where you started in January output-wise. This is where you are in February and March, and then June, July, and August. And then show them the gains that they've made throughout the course of time by the intent that they're training. And that should translate better crossing the threshold of the door, because it makes them more sudden.
When they are doing a set and they see the feedback and they can see that the numbers weren't as good as they should have been, can they look back at what they did technique wise and change it? Or sometimes they have trouble finding that?
No, sir. So it's instant feedback. They can hit a button, and it's a video feedback, so they can watch that set and they can see themselves do it. So if there's a technical flaw or something like that, we can show that to them through the video component of it. A lot of times we video them on our phones as well, so we can show it right to them from a side angle. But there's a lot of feedback as far as technical goes. And then the flip side of that is it goes back all the way that they can chart those exercises and know this exercise at this weight in January, this is what I put out there. But now in March, same weight, same exercise, this is what I'm putting. So they can chart that progress and see the mountain they're climbing.
One other thing, you had a lot of mid-year freshmen come in January and some portal guys. How fun or challenging is it to get those guys integrated into it? What is that process like when you've got a lot of other guys that are thick into it? And how has that gone so far?
Yes, sir. That's been really, really good as far as, this is probably the best situation they could be, because they're learning all of this for the most part, just like the regular guys that were here last year too, because I said we're really kind of still starting and teaching a lot. So that was a good, assimilation for them into the program. The biggest thing is, anytime somebody comes in that's new, we treat them like they've not been in a weight room. And there's a few assessments that we do and things to make sure we watch them, because ultimately the grip it and rip it mentality, you can get away with that a little bit, but eventually you're going to pay that debt back. So we want to make sure that they're set up safely to do what we want to do, and that they have the ranges of motion and things, that they understand what they're being asked to do. Then we can add speeds and loads on top of it, but they got to be safe, because eventually we're going to plateau, or God forbid, get somebody hurt doing it because they're doing something that's not safe. And that's the thing, that's that eating that elephant. Everybody's in a hurry, but you have time to build it the right way, to not have to take those steps back down a month or two down the road because something went wrong. We go a little slower and we'll get where we need to be without those step backs.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next question will go to Audrey Dalgan with WLNS.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, the Elite Forum is very interesting, intriguing to learn about the metrics and the analytics. But my question is a little bit more simple, I guess, in a sense of what are you guys, what's the base for this training program, in a sense of like at the end of it, it would make it successful if this, or this is what we want our guys or need our guys to be at a weight size or lifting a certain, what makes it successful at the end of the training program?
Sure. Ultimately, it's the effort and the intensity that we train with. That's ultimately it, because any exercise is a good exercise if done with intent and done with effort. And so basically, we talk a lot about power cleans and squats and bench and things like that, but really what we're trying to do, everything that you see like hashtag, right? Hashtag relentless. Well, that word, if you're really doing that and being that, there's a certain standard that you have to meet every day of the way you train, the way you recover, the way you take care of your body. That's really it. It's really establishing and creating behaviors that then it doesn't matter what exercise you're doing, because there's a way that we do whatever we do. And that's really what and this is the first time we've been able to work on establishing that. And with that becomes, the nutrition and recovery. You guys, we had talked about the nutrition that we've implemented, and getting to hire Amber as our nutritionist and the rock star that she is, and the changes she's made in such a short time. That's what we're trying to do, is like, guys, invest in yourself, take advantage of every single opportunity there is in the building to gain ground and get everything out of this that you can. And then whatever the exercises are or the drill that we're doing is, who cares? Just pin your ears back and go, and then we'll get where we need to get. That's kind of our mentality, more so than designing the absolute perfect workout. The perfect workout done half-heartedly means nothing. Let's fill milk jugs and push cars, but man, let's be the best at it, and we'll probably get more out of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And then as a quick follow-up, how fired up are you for the donation that Matt Ishbia has given to the football program, in terms of what you're going to be able to do with what he's contributing?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I've never been a part of something like that, where a generosity of that magnitude that I've been able to be a part of. So number one, holy smokes, right? Number two, that is a program changing opportunity, but not just for the guys that are wearing green and white today. That's going to affect 3, 5, 10 years from now. That's program changing of what that allows us to do. And, selfish strength coach talking part of it. The doors that opens and the possibilities that creates for us and training our players. It's just an amazing opportunity. And it just speaks to the level that Michigan State is and how people feel about this, and how easy it is to get excited about this and Spartan Nation, right? Because not everywhere gets that, and it's certainly not done everywhere. And so very appreciative, very thankful for that. And it's just, It's amazing what that's going to do for our players, and players that don't even know they're Spartans yet, that are going to be 3, 5, 7 years down the road. It's going to be incredible.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Looks like we have time just for a couple more. If Steven, did you still have another question, Steven Brooks?
Sure. Yeah, Jason, I've heard from quite a few recruits about your impact in that process, and when they get to talk, the opportunity to talk to you. I'm just curious, what do you see your role in the recruiting process, and how do you think that's going? Have you done that a lot in your previous stops? I was looking, obviously the NFL, no, and IMG, no. I don't know at Central, maybe if you were too involved in that. Just again, your role and how you think that's all going in terms of how you
Sure.
help the program in that regard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think, recruiting, it's true. It's the lifeblood of the program, right? So it's very critical. On the other side of that is, these guys, they spend more time with me and my staff and in our room than they really do anywhere other than the library, right? So those are the two highest trafficked areas on campus for an athlete. And so what I do is I try to lay out when I talk to recruits, who I am, and sell like crazy how good of a staff I have, because I get to be the face in front of them and talk to them a little bit on Zoom, but I try to help them get to know our staff, the strengths, their backgrounds and experience, to know, hey, look, you have a team of people here that is chomping at the bit when you get here, that we're all in on you to help get you where you want to go. And so the ultimate thing that we talk about is, I always tell the guys, I'm like, listen, I do not control your playing time. I don't do that. But if you have it, I'll help you keep it. And if you want it, I'll help you get it. If we can have a relationship like that, then everything that we ask you to do is for your benefit. And if we can help you, if the faster we can help you understand that, know it, and believe it, then it's all gas, no brakes, pin our ears back, and we go. And so that's really the gist of how I talk with them, and making sure that they understand, like, look, we're going to treat you like an athlete and take your athleticism to build that as a better football player, not treat you just like a football player at the detriment of all other athletic needs, because that's a dangerous way to make a living as an athlete, because it's very volatile, and bad things happen when you do that, because it's very unbalanced.
Is this kind of a new hat for you, doing this to this level, or is that something you've done a little bit throughout?
At Central Michigan, I did it quite a bit. At other colleges that I've been at, there was various degrees of involvement with recruiting. As recruiting has grown, it obviously gets a lot more. The NFL was different because you had to recruit with free agency. And so when you would bring the free agents in, it was just like freshman high school visits, but they were free agents. And it was different what you were selling, because it was a second contract, or they were at the end of their careers, and you had to sell, how could you help them gain time in the league? What did you have to offer them? And then how could you mitigate injuries, rehabilitations, and things like that? So I'm comfortable with it, because I talk to them like I would want coaches talking to my kids. And so I want to make sure that I get across to the parents, this is important to me as a dad, and this is what I would want to know. I might be a little bit more educated on what to ask sometimes because I'm in the business, but I want to make sure y'all know this is what I would want to know. And hopefully there builds a comfort level with that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, one more from Jim, if we have time for it.
Hey, Jason, last year the team got on the field in August, and there was a shutdown, and then in September and October you had the January type of workouts like you're talking about. Did you notice some progress in the players from the time that they were on the field? Did they make progress between that September, October period? Was that tangible? Was it noticeable? And if so, how encouraged are you that now during this 9-month program or whatever it is, that you'll see even more progress? Did you see some progress then? What's your optimism going into the fall?
Yes, sir. So going back to the August, September, there were some noticeable changes. We had a lot of changes with body composition. Around on average, in that about 8-week time from the middle of August camp until we got back in October, around average, we were about a 3 to 3.5% change in body fat percentage over that time. But we were able to really dig into the conditioning side of things. Whereas back in the summer, when we knew camp was started, everything was very accelerated. So we had to be able to train to run for football. And so it was a little bit more tip of the spear training. Whereas when we stopped the camp and went back to that January model, we were able to attack conditioning and fitness a little bit harder. So you saw changes in body compositions a little bit more that way than would be normal for that time of year. Then the second part is with the training in the weight room, the biggest changes were honestly the adaptation of being able to get back to training like with normal implements, because in the summer we were in the indoor field at the weave. We had a group in the weight room and then out on the field and all that. We were able to train a little bit normal. So the numbers looked a little bit more normal to what we're all used to seeing in the weight room and being able to do the traditional exercises. That way for now, pretty much we're able to train normal. We can do all the normal things. It's the traditional strength and conditioning, but we can start in January, the conditioning base, build it up, add speed on top of it, and then change direction for spring ball and repeat the process over in the summer. So I'm really excited. The guys have worked very, very hard. They've been very intense with the efforts they've given. And I think we're going to get some good results as far as, you know, body changes and strength gains and whatnot. But, you know, the biggest, I think, impact is the nutrition. Honestly, like that affects our players more than any exercise I write on a page, on a piece of paper, because it affects everything that they do. And that's how you really make, if you want to change your body in production or body comp or whatnot, nutrition is where it's going to have the biggest bang for your buck.
All right, you may not want to answer this, but are there 2 or 3 players or maybe a position group that have changed their body and composition and suddenness the most since entering this program?
Yeah, you know, I would say a position group as a whole that has really done some good work and put in some really good some good time in the room. The wide receivers have done really good. And so what we've been working on them a lot with is that first step and the top end speed. So the football's a game of separation, right? You're either trying to create it or close it. And so what we're trying to do is work on the first step. And then once we get past that, the top end speed of it. So they've done some really good work. I mean, as I'm sitting here, I'm seeing a bunch of guys in there doing extra work today on an off day. They're all out there throwing out. And so that would be a group that's done a really, really good job. I could single out guys from every single position that have really, really changed as far as the intensity with which they go about this. And the list is really, really long. The list would be shorter if I started saying who doesn't do that. And so for me, you know, I'm just really appreciative of the effort they've given and how dialed in they've been. And you know, I'm excited to see what they've done. I'm fans of theirs first. Like ultimately, I enjoy watching them. I love watching them, and I'm fans of theirs. And I like to see their successes because I don't control their playing time.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Coach, we really appreciate you joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you soon at spring ball.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.